Hey, horror fans! Once again, it is me, the Horror Miser Money G. It's time to review another horror movie review. It's time to review the latest werewolf horror movie called The Curse. Now, The Curse is a 2021 horror film. Was written and directed by Sean Ellis. The film stars Boyd Holbrook, Kelly Riley, Alistair Petrie, and Roxanne Duran. Now, in this movie, in rural 19th century France, a mysterious possible supernatural menace threatens the small village. John McBride, the pathologist, comes in town to investigate the danger and exorcise some of his own demons in the process. Way to go, John! So, my horror fans, I'm pretty sure everyone knows that my favorite supernatural creatures are vampires. I know from the great late Christopher Lee to Kate Beckinsale and Celine in the Underworld series, I've really been fascinated by vampires. Mostly all the vampire movies except for Twilight, which I won't go there. But I truly have enjoyed vampires throughout my whole time watching horror movies. Just something about vampires, their slickness, their ferociousness. How they conduct themselves. Of course, that blood thing, that's just a side effect. But I truly do love vampire films. And while we know how popular vampire films are, a lot of people love another supernatural creature, and that are werewolves. Now, werewolves considered to be number two to vampires when it comes to popularity. They haven't had the success in horror movies like vampires have. Yes, we have the old school Universal monsters, the Wolfman. Then we have, in the 80s, we had The Howling and American Werewolf in London. We also have some other films that have come out throughout the ages, but they simply just don't have the type of pop culture that vampires have. I mean, even Universal tried to reboot the Wolfman. It starred Benicio del Toro and Anthony Hawkins, and while it was okay, it just didn't give the jolt that everyone needed to bring werewolves back. And we have some other werewolf movies that come out recently, such as The Wolf from Snow Hollow, which was kind of funny, and Werewolves in. But again, they just haven't had the success of vampire movies have when it comes to horror films. Well, let's see that hope that changes with British film director Sean Ellis' latest entry to werewolves called The Curse. Now, set in the late 19th century France, we see land baron Seamus Laurent, along with some elder villagers, violently remove a Roma clan that has a legal claim on the land that Seamus owns. Guy just was too greedy. What's wrong with sharing? Now, obviously, this turns out to be a bad idea because all of a sudden, everyone's starting to have these dreams where they have to dig up the Roman leader's corpse. And eventually, Seamus' children, Charlotte and Edward, along with the other children in the village, they dig up the Roman leader's grave, and it starts a curse that has deadly consequences for everyone in the village. Oh boy. Just couldn't leave those people alone, could you? Now, I will have to say I was very impressed with the story Sean has written here as he makes several changes to the werewolf mythos. I mean, you will not see the typical full moon attacks or even some of the transformation scenes that we've seen in other werewolf movies. He goes into a completely different territory when it comes to the werewolves in this film. That's because he seems to rely more on atmosphere, if anything else. The setting here is very dark and eerie, taking place during a time where there's no real joy going around the village. If I'm not mistaken correctly, I don't know if this was set at the time when the Black Plague hit Europe or other diseases that were hitting Europe at the time, but it was simply not a great place to be living at this time. Even in 19th century France, it's dull, it's lifeless, it's dark, it's eerie. It seems that that's the type of setting and tone that Sean's going for here, and it looks great. I mean, it's just very dark and eerie looking. Another thing Sean doesn't do, he doesn't hold back on the violence as we get a full wide shot of the mercenary Shaman hires to get rid of the Roman clan here. I mean, it's very nicely shot. It's a very wide angle. We don't get any close up and no cut scenes. We see everything right in front of the viewer, and you can't just look away from it because it's right there in front of you. Now, I thought there was a nice and very deadly way to begin the film. Now, again, one thing I also did like, no one is safe in this movie, as Sean makes sure that everyone is in danger of the attacks by the creatures in this particular film. I mean, there's definitely no one is safe in this film. As I stated earlier, all the rules about werewolves are thrown out. Even how they transform is different in this setting. Sean does a great job in combining practical effects with CGI, giving the creatures a very frightening look. I mean, one of the things he does very well, he doesn't really show the creatures very well. We get little sides and little other instances of the attacks, but we do see the aftermath of the attack that the creature does. It's very bloody, very gory. And like I said before, he really does a great job of making sure we really don't get to see the full creature. But what we see is frightening enough. Sean also does a great job in creating enough tension and suspense as the creatures can attack anytime and anywhere. They're not subjected by the typical only transform during the 3 nights of the full moon. These creatures, once they transform, that's it. They're going to get you. Now, Boyd Holbrook does a good job in playing John McBride. He's a confident, brave man who wants to save the village and save the children, but at the same time, he has his own demons he needs to exercise. It's quite obvious he knows what's happening, and while his motivations might call him as a big cliche, we still want him to save the village, and that's basically because he seems to be a good man. His heart is in the right place. He wants to do the right thing, and you got to give Boyd credit for how he displays John McBride. One of the problems I do have with this film is lack of character development, especially Kelly Riley's Isabel, Charlotte and Edward's mother. I mean, she really doesn't do anything throughout the whole movie up until the third act, and when that happens, it doesn't have the type of impact Sean was going for, as the audience doesn't really care about her that much. She has some scenes throughout the movie, but she simply just plays, I guess, a type of wife that they had throughout that time period where she's there, but when the men are talking, she goes away. That's not what you want to do with this character, and you want to do what Sean does with her at the third act of the film. It doesn't have any impact. If you want to have that type of impact, then she should play more of a role in this film. The same goes for the children as well, as I expected more from Charlotte and Edward, as the film seems to focus on the children at the beginning of it, but it seems Sean was more focused on the curse, and the children only seem to be a means to begin that curse. That's one of the problems I have with this film, because we get to see a lot of Charlotte and Edward in the beginning of the film. I would say at least up until right around the beginning of the second act of the film is when the curse starts. And then that's it. We don't really get any more of the children. And I said, look, I thought they were going to play a much more focal part in the film based upon the way the story was going. Again, it's an interesting way on how the curse begins, and I have to give Sean credit for trying something different regarding werewolf mythos. It's certainly a different way than we normally would see how werewolves or lycanthropy, that's basically what it's called, the clinical definition of werewolves are. But in this one, he does it a different way, and got to give Sean credit. It's totally something different. Never thought about this way before. So, despite some character flaws, this was a haunting and creepy werewolf horror film with some decent creature effects, with a haunting and frightful setting. You got to give Sean credit. He really did a good job in this film. So, I'm going to give The Curse 3 out of my 5 bloody gold coins. Giving it 3 out of my 5 bloody gold coins. Yes, like I said before, very different take of the werewolf mythos right here. Is it the best werewolf film I've seen? No, it's not. No, I wouldn't say this is the best, but it could be on one of the top 10 or top 5. And I highly recommend you guys watch The Curse if you haven't seen it already. So there you have it. That's my video and review of The Curse. Hope you did enjoy it. And if you did, please give it a thumbs up, like, and share, because it does help out with the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you haven't seen The Curse, let me know in the comment section what you thought about the movie. Did you really did enjoy it? Do you like his Sean's take on the werewolves here in this film? Also, if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. That way you'll be notified anytime when I put a new video such as this one. Once again, my name is Lamont Smith, better known as the Horror Meister, Monty G, and always remember that horror rules. And I'll see you in my next video. I'm out.